This is an Empty Closet Radio podcast. Get more at facebook.com/emptyclosetradio. It's so camp.
Stop laughing at me. It's not even funny.
Yes, it is.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sam.
And this is The Empty Closet.
The show for everyone, whether you're in the closet
Or out and proud.
or somewhere in between.
You're in The Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam, and on tonight's show, we're going to be talking about new slang words. Sam has a new one that I've never heard. We're also talking about team sports. What are the best countries to live in if you are LGBT? We're also talking a little bit about big tech and how awesome they've been for our community lately.
Now, if you do want to catch up on any past episodes, or you just want to listen to our voices again, you can check out the podcast. Just search for Empty Closet Radio on your favourite podcasting app. Hit the subscribe button, and you'll find plenty of content there to be going on with. And you can also check us out on social media. So just look on the big blue book of faces for Empty Closet Radio. Hit the like button or find us on the blue Tweety Bird. We're at emptycloset_AU, all lowercase. You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
Empty Closet Radio. Listen to us using your TuneIn radio app on your smartphone. Very smart.
101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. And Sam, before the show, you were asking me, just out of the blue, did I know what is it Belfie? Is that how you say it?
I think so. So I was perusing a Rainbow magazine for an unrelated reason.
When we say Rainbow magazine, you don't mean like with a sealed section.
No, I don't mean, a triple X magazine or anything. I mean a magazine targeted at the queer community, not pornography. But anyway, so I was reading along and there was this thing and it said, Belfie. And I was like, what the fuck is this? So, of course, I had to come and ask you about it because you seem to be the king of queer slang.
I only know the slang that people tell me, and every time that I learn a new word, it seems like these days, I feel like I'm really old and like I feel shame that I didn't know it already.
So what do you think it means?
I think it's some kind of modification on the word selfie, and I'm thinking like Belfie, what starts with a B? Your bottoms of your feet?
You can't see the judgment look that I'm giving Andrew. So judgy.
Sam, you're always judging me. What else? Eyeballs?
This is just not getting any better. Do you have a better guess?
Is it like a bum selfie?
Well, so apparently it's an amalgamation of butt and selfie. So I thought, oh yeah, this is like the kind of thing that you send on one of your GPS-based hookup apps if you don't want to photograph the front. It seems to be, but no, that wasn't the answer.
Really?
So apparently it's a selfie you take when your bum is in the shot. So it's not actually just your butt. So it's like, say you're like taking a selfie because you're standing on the edge of a beautiful scenery and you take it from above and you can see your butt. That's a Belfie.
Why do you even need a word for this? Like, how is this a useful word to the English language at all in any way? Can you explain this to me?
I really don't know. And this is the thing that really gets me, is that we've got to the point where we're amalgamating, like combining slang words that haven't been around very long. Like selfie is not an old word. People would just say you took a photograph of yourself. Selfie became its own word relatively recently. And we're already tacking other shit onto it.
Also, I think this is similar to how people shorten words that really don't need to be shortened. Like when people say totes. I'm like, you totally have the time to say totally. Your time's not that valuable.
Or when someone verbally says WTF, and I'm like, that makes it longer than what the fuck.
Yeah, it took more time.
Although, it sounds funny when you go, WTF, mate, but that's because that was one of the first internet memes. For all you young people out there, Google end of the world.
I actually really, really hate it when you hear, sitting on the bus and you hear people being like, oh yeah, I'm totes gonna DM you that.
Yeah, no. I have a cousin who's talked like that. She was ahead of her time. She was talking like that before everybody else was talking like that for 15 years now.
Stop shortening everything. You have the time.
And if you don't, maybe you shouldn't be saying it.
It's ridiculous. Just get on with it.
But yes, so, but the reason it made me think of you, Andrew, is because remember some time ago we were talking about when you went hiking and you took those super special photos? Do you want to share with the class about that?
What was this? Are we talking the super special photos that I haven't sent to anyone ever?
Well, I don't know. Have you sent them to anyone ever?
I feel like it's only Joel and I who have actually seen those photos.
That's a lie. You showed me some of these photos.
All right, fine. You, me, Joel, maybe a few other boys.
Yeah, so I have to admit that's what popped into my head when I saw Belfie. I'm like, oh, it's Andrew naked on a mountaintop.
With my bum to the camera, just for clarification.
Yeah, so I was like, maybe that's what a Belfie is. But no, it doesn't even need to be that specific.
But you know what's so funny? The main reason why I haven't actually sent it to people is because I have somewhere in the back of my mind that I'm pretty sure that mountaintop that we were on was an Indigenous sacred site. And so I'm a bit scared to send them to people in case they're like, oh my God, you're defacing traditional lands.
I love how you're so sarcastic about it, but I can't imagine you being naked on an altar in St. Peter's,
Has this not happened? Is this not why they're having that inquest?
No, you on an altar.
Me specifically, I see.
Yes, you taking that kind of photo. So judging you.
I don't think I've ever been naked in a church, actually, come to think of it.
Yeah, so why are you naked on a mountaintop?
I don't know, it was fun at the time and I caved to peer pressure, okay?
You're on 101.9 Coast FM. We don't advocate caving to peer pressure.
She's shining in a sea of people, see her smiling.
Empty Closet Radio, like us on Facebook.
You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. Sam, I was thinking about another word that was new to me just recently, and you probably have heard of it. It's the word is footsie, and it's with relation to photos.
So is that when people, sit at the beach or something, and they put their feet in front of them and they take a photo of their feet and not their face?
Well, yes. And how did you know that so quickly?
Well, mostly because you said it related to photos, because I figured otherwise it was, getting to halfway to first base under a table.
Halfway to first base under a table in my world is a little bit different than footsies.
Let's keep it public friendly here, Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew, keep it clean. Hey, so tonight, Sam, I'm doing something really exciting. I am going to, for the first time in since I was 10 years old, I'm going to go and play a sport as part of a social sports team.
My goodness.
I like how you're being very, very excited about that for me. Thanks.
I'm mostly I need time to process this because I'm quite shocked.
Yeah, is that because you don't think I'm a team player?
It's mostly because I can't see you playing team sports.
It's true. So the last time that I was on a team, this was when I was growing up, and I used to be on a baseball team. Well, it started as T-ball, and T-ball was fine because the ball didn't move when you had to hit it.
Right?
I know. And then suddenly it was oh, you're too old for T-ball. You have to do baseball now where you have to hit it and it's moving. And I was terrible at it. Absolutely terrible at it.
Yeah, you know how long it took me to work out that there's meant to be this narrow spot that the ball can go through in baseball when they pitch it? Because I just thought that the ball could go anywhere and you still had to hit it.
I don't think I ever worked it out. to be honest. Like, I don't think it ever happened for me.
I only think I worked that out because my brother played every sport under the sun, so I managed to tangentially absorb knowledge.
Right. I can't imagine you tangentially absorbing knowledge. You are like a sponge for knowledge, Sam. Every time that I'm like, oh, have you ever heard of this? You're like, yep, I know all about it. You're the kind of person that I want on my trivia table. Anyway, so I haven't been on a sports team for a long time, and I don't really know. I'm a little bit apprehensive about it, to be honest. A little bit apprehensive about the whole, like, sports and having to work together in a team, because I can do both separately, but putting the two together.
So what is the sport?
You might laugh. It's netball.
No, that's awesome. Netball's probably the most team-dependent sport that I can think of that's played, at least casually.
I have to Google the rules when I get home from this.
Don't run with the ball.
Right, got it.
That's like the primary one, because that's different to a lot of other sports. You do not run with the ball. You get 2 steps.
Well, you know that I'm going to be terrible at this. You know that the referee is going to be like blowing that whistle at me all the time.
I think it'll be good for you, because it's basically netball is like, it's like basketball, but for actual team players instead of people who just want to slam dunk all the time.
Well, are you saying that I want to slam dunk all the time?
No, I'm saying that you can be a good team player.
Oh, right. Yes. Take the compliment, Andrew. Take the compliment. So it's with a bunch of friends from work. So it's going to be really interesting firstly to see everybody outside of work, and secondly for them all to see how ridiculous I am at sports.
Do you have tiny shorts to wear?
They're just the shorts that I normally wear.
Hooray, tiny shorts.
They're not that. Oh, yeah, okay, they're pretty tiny.
Like, every time you're like, oh, I got these new shorts, and they just get shorter and shorter. I'm like, are your legs growing? What's happening?
Yes, my legs are growing.
Now, do you know what position you're going to be playing?
Oh, Sam, so many lines that I could use there. As far as I know, I don't think there are fully assigned positions until we all show up, because we're never sure who's going to show up. That means that right now I'd be verse.
I was going to say, so are you at the back end of the court or something like that? But might I advise that you don't go for shooter straight away if you're not super confident?
I always go for shooter. Oh my God. So many cheap jokes, Sam. Stop laughing at me.
I love that it's cheap jokes, and then it's not even really a sport that you hear a lot of cheap jokes about, is it? Really? Like, it's not like baseball,
or like get in the rugby scrum, ha.
Oh God. And on that note, you're on 101.9 Coast FM, and you're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
It's midnight as we cut through the city.
Empty Closet Radio, because no one else wants to be stuck in the closet. Go.
101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. Now, Sam, you know I like to keep an eye on what's happening in the news with regard to the gay politics. The gay politics. Did you hear me say that?
The rainbow agenda.
The rainbow agenda, that's right. Most of the time, my rainbow agenda is about, like, can I make a cup of coffee right now and enjoy it on the balcony? That is my gay agenda. But today I found actually a bit more of an interesting article, though I think it might have just been like a catchy headline. The 30 best countries in the world for LGBT workers, as opposed to when you're not working, I guess. Well,
there's something to be said for that. So what is it? Is it legit? What's the go? Because that sounds very authoritative, and I'm not convinced that it's that authoritative.
Well, it's been put out by a recruitment company, so if anyone knows about the workplace, it should be them. So that's like tick, possibly a good source of information. And it looks like they've compared quite a few measures. So the measures seem to be good. So they have a look at the LGBT laws and rights in general for the country, and then they look at the employment laws specific to LGBT people. and then they look at like the general minimum wage of the country and the general unemployment rate, as well as what the average salary is, and then the last measure, which is probably a little bit more abstract, is whether the country is LGBT friendly or not. So basically it's a good start.
I find it interesting that, because they're assigning out scores, like 3, 2, or 1 based on each of those things, right?
Yeah, but I feel like 3, 2, 1 is a bit, too broad strokes.
Yeah, this is not it doesn't read like a serious academic analysis, but that's probably a bit beefy for an eye-catching headline.
It should be a score out of 10, definitely.
Well, I mean, that would make more sense to me. But what I find interesting, and I know that they look at it because they're like, oh, you know, the conditions of workers generally will impact the conditions of queer workers. But, you know, by saying, oh, this country has really great, you know, has low levels of unemployment and has high minimum wage, even if there's like crap all laws protecting somebody, that's still 3 out of 3 in 2 areas, you know, like, it's a little bit odd. It's a little bit strange, rather than going, well, what's the ratio of the wage to the average wage, you know, or something like that as a measure.
Well, there's nothing about living expenses in here, really.
No. And also like straight out comparing, you know, this is the average hourly wage, or this is the average take-home pay per year of a LGBTQIA person versus a member of the general population. It has both of them kind of independently out of 3, but it doesn't compare the two, and that strikes me as a better measure.
Yeah, I don't know whether they are going to try again and improve. Maybe they can improve for next year's study. But the important thing is, let's roll with this, Sam, because it's the figures we have. The important thing is, where do you think Australia ranks? When you think about, like, do we have good laws? Do we have good rights? How employed are we? How much do we get paid? Compared to the rest of the world, where do you think we might rank?
Well, I don't think we can rank too poorly, considering that it's not outright illegal to be queer here.
Yes, good point. So the top 10 countries, they all scored either 15 points, 16 points, or 17 points. And I'll give you a hint now. Australia didn't score 17.
Did we score 16?
We did. We drew with our, we drew with the arch nemesis, which is, New Zealand, of course.
You know, I reckon that New Zealand, because to be honest, from what I've seen of their laws, they've done better than us in protecting the rights of rainbow workers and so on. They also never put marriage equality to a public vote that was non-binding. But anyway, but they do not have our minimum wage, as in generally speaking. So they have much lower wages generally in New Zealand than in Australia. And I'm wondering if that's why we're equal, because New Zealand fell down there and we were like, yes, and used it as a chance to claw our way back up.
Guess who else we're equal with, though?
Who?
Monaco. Monaco. Really? So, like, but the one country in the world that beat us in number of points is Luxembourg. Not only are they filthy tax dodgers. No, I shouldn't say. Oh, Sam, stop hitting me. Okay, so they're not tax dodgers. They just are a tax haven.
Yes.
They are. They're legitimately, Luxembourg is legitimately a tax haven.
No, we're just going to brush over that because that's a whole other episode for you to talk about. But you did point out, though, at one point in there, it talked about the minimum wage in Australia as legally set and the minimum wage as actually experienced by rainbow people. Do you want to enlighten us all on that with our amazingly equal country?
I'm just going to read this directly from the article. Quote, surprisingly, Australia has the highest minimum wage rate for members of the LGBT community at $9.54 per hour, which is pretty shocking considering our national minimum wage rate is $18.93 per hour.
So what you're saying is, even though they're like, oh, this is where you'll earn the most as a rainbow person, what they're actually meaning is you'll earn half of the minimum wage.
Yeah, exactly.
You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet, being poor with Andrew and Sam.
Bright like the morning sun, you are the perfect start of my day.
Empty Closet Radio, facebook.com/Empty Closet Radio.
101.9 Coast FM, you're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. Now, Sam, when I was searching for some articles online this week, I typed in LGBT and then hit the news button so it would give me news results. And you looked over my shoulder and you were like, why is it not GLBT?
Not quite. You were showing me the news thing and it said, oh, look what pops up, there's rainbow in this. And then underneath it had LGBT or GLBT. And I'm like, which way around does it go? Which way is the most common usage and why is there a difference?
Well, I think this is, obviously, first, let's preface this with both stand for the same things. Like the letters, we can all agree that the letters all mean the same thing. And we're not word historians, but we can just give our opinions. So the G obviously is gay, L means lesbian, B is for bisexual, and T is for transgender. So I think that both terms agree on that. The letters don't mean different things. It's just a different order that they go in, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So this prompted some investigation for both of us. Sam did some investigation with probably more reliable sources than me. I'm pretty sure my investigation was just let me just search on my social media and see what I can find.
Dear goodness. So the reason that we searched is because I said that, I had always heard it growing up and in most of the things I read as LGBT. And you, Andrew, said, well, when I first started searching the term, I always heard it as GLBT. I'd never heard it the other way around.
Yeah. So I think maybe we go a step even further back. So when I was a baby gay and didn't even know about being gay, the term that I had heard was gay and lesbian. And I think this was kind of pioneered as a term from, I think it was pioneered by lesbian women during the height of the rights movement, around where Stonewall was, that period of time.
Yeah, because the first, okay, we're talking in the West here. The first non-derogatory term, I guess, to use to refer to the rainbow community was the gay community. But once during the civil rights movement, more activists becoming more vocal, particularly lesbian activists are like, this only talks about men, gay men. So, and that's where gay and lesbian came from.
Yeah, and because gay men are very happy to accept that word. Interestingly enough, women, gay was also applied to women, but now it seems like there's more of a delineation, gay is the masculine form of the word.
I think if you say gay, it's like with a lot of words, you have to clarify you mean female. There's a lot of terminology more generally. If you say pilot, the first thing that pops into head is a man, unless you say, oh, a female pilot, so it's kind of almost like that. You have to say a female gay. And so it was easier, well, not easier, but just be no, we're sick of being secondary to this word. So let's have a whole new word that's ours,
And the new word became GLBT.
Well, no, the first one that was used was LGB. There was no T, and the L came first. That was the first acronym that was used. So gay and lesbian wasn't an acronym. It was always said gay and lesbian community. Once acronyms started, it was LGB.
Right, okay. And then they added the T as time went on.
So as time went on and they talked about, gender diversity as well as sexual diversity or sexuality diversity, that was when the T was added.
So I think part of that might have coincided with us, society, learning more about the difference between sexuality and gender as well.
A little bit. So LGB came about basically, in 1988, and the T was added in the early 90s. But even then, like within the queer community more broadly, and there still is now, but it's not as bad as it was, there was still a real thing against trans people and bisexual people. So it came about, you know, whether that was being accepted. So LGBTQ was the next step again, and that came in 96. And that was basically including queer and questioning under the Q. So if you're not familiar with it, most of the time, if there's a letter in the acronym that can stand for more than one word, you don't repeat the letter. Like if you have A, it can mean arrow and ace. Like you don't need to have, and agender. You don't need to have 3 A's, just have an A.
Yeah, there was, like, if we put all of the letters that have been kind of proposed all together, it might look like LGBTQQIA.
Pink like the inside of your baby pink.
Empty Closet Radio, because no one wants to be stuck in the closet.
Baby pink like the sun going down. Maybe pink like the holes in your heart. Baby pink is my favorite part.
If we put all of the letters that have been kind of proposed all together, it might look like LGBTQQIA. In fact, Sam, I was reading, there was a study done by, and of course, very scientific study, it was done by a marketing firm, to figure out which acronym resonates the best with which groups of people. And they found some very, very interesting results.
What was that?
Well, basically, the longer the acronym became, the less popular it was with gay men in general.
Not a shock at all.
Because boys are lazy.
Well, it's also a thing, this is a problem, I really think this is a problem in the queer community that we are working to overcome, but it is still an issue that there's a lot of people who kind of feel like, well, we've gone far enough and we've described how I feel, so can't everyone else just relate to me? And this is also why I say queer community for me, because queer covers everybody. Everybody's queer, right? Who's part of the community. If I say gay community to me, that doesn't cover everyone in the community.
But I don't identify as queer.
But your identification comes under the queer banner by textbook. Or I say the rainbow community.
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable with the rainbow community, because when, like, each of these words carries baggage for people and, like, different baggage for different people. When you say queer, I immediately think of, like people who are, like, super androgynous, presenting in a way that I've never presented. Like, I've always wanted to present myself as a gay man.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah, so like when I think of the queer people that I know, or the people who would label themselves queer, I'm kind of like, that's not really me.
No, but you say gay community, and to me, I only hear cis gay men in that. Like, that doesn't include trans people, intersex, questioning, bisexuals, any women, you know, but you still use that term, and a lot of people do, and it comes up a lot where people go, why do we need all these terms? We already have gay. And it's like, yes, your experience is great, but it's not the only experience.
Sam, don't rage at me. We spend all week planning a podcast so that we can talk about these things.
This is true. But you know what I'd really like to see? I would really like to see what the popularity of the long acronyms is with people who are in the long acronyms rather than people who aren't.
Well, okay, so I don't have my hands on that data. Thanks.
Nobody's looking at that data.
I don't have my hands on that data, is what I said. But what I can tell you is that for GLBT, 55% of gay men liked that. 46% of lesbians liked it. If you take the L and the G and switch them around, so it's LGBT, which puts lesbians first, because in the Western world, you know, reading from left to right, it's like the hierarchy. 73% of gay men liked it, and 82% of lesbians. So that's like, it's almost doubled the approval rate with the lesbian community.
Which to me makes sense.
It makes sense. And I think also the jump in approval from gay men shows that there are lots of gay men that are cognizant about, let's recognise that our lesbian sisters as really contributing to the community.
Yeah, and I do think as much as the short acronyms are popular, I think that having the B, the T, and the Q at the very least is very important. Like, I mean, the short acronym that I think's the best one is LGBTQ.
Well, I think that this summarises up perhaps what you're saying about adding the Q on the end, because when they added the Q on the end, so let's remember 73% of gay men like it when it just says LGBT, and then when you add the Q, it drops down to 46% of gay men. Like, that's a huge drop in popularity.
And how does it do with lesbians?
Lesbians, different story. They're obviously a lot more considerate. So LGBT got 82% approval from the lesbian control group, and LGBTQ, so just adding the Q on, they only dropped to 70%. So that's only 12 percentage points off.
So it was still more popular amongst lesbians than leading with the G.
Way more popular, because they still get to be at the front of the ship. You're on 101.9 Coast FM in the Empty Closet. I better run now. I think Sam's going to kill me. Bye.
You make me feel like me. Oh, the air you breathe takes me in.
Empty Closet Radio, 9 p.m. Tuesdays, 101.9 Coast FM.
'Cause I don't wanna do this, I don't wanna do that, do that, do that, do that.
101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. Sam, there's a few things coming up this week. One of the things that is coming up is PFLAG, which is Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. There you go. Acronyms everywhere.
How would you pronounce it if it was gays and lesbians?
It really would not. It wouldn't happen.
Wouldn't roll off the tongue?
PLFGAG? I don't think so. It's probably not the right thing.
PFGAL?
PFGAL. Yeah.
PFLAG is better.
Way better. Anyway, so luckily Cairns has a PFLAG group, and they're having a meeting. It's this Saturday, the 7th of July, 10 a.m. at Paradiso. So if you're around and you want to go, or if you're listening to this and you think, hey, mum and dad would really get something out of this, tell them about it. Let them know it's on. And it's super chill. It's like, just go there, have a coffee, meet some other parents and friends who are like helping to support their gay, lesbian, trans, queer young people.
Yeah, so get along to that. It's always a good time. 10 a.m. on the 7th of July.
There's also this other thing that I found out about, which is kind of interesting, and I don't know heaps about it. I'm trying to do some digging, but there's this thing called Pink Drinks Network. It's like, I think it's a newish kind of website where you can go on there and like register that you're going to host like drinks, and it's like an open invitation to people who know about it. So you can go onto the website and you like put in what your suburb is, your suburb or city, and then it tells you if there's any drinks events happening in your area. And there's one happening in Clifton Beach coming up very soon. So make sure you check that out. It's called the Pink Drinks Network, and you'll have to dig through there and get the information sent to you because I don't know all the details.
And finally, and we'll talk about this again next week, from the 12th to the 15th of July, if you are in Cairns, there is the Cairns Indigenous Arts Festival, which is always amazing. But the reason that I bring it up so early is because as part of the opening night, one of my favourite rainbow comedians, Stephen Oliver, is going to be hosting.
For those of you who are terrible with names, like me, Stephen Oliver is the guy I know him as the guy from Black Comedy, the one who plays the queer character. He is hilarious.
So if you remember, there's a beefier guy and a smaller guy both going, "Hey, slut. What slut?"
They're my favourite. It's just like me talking to my friends.
Exactly. So he is the smaller of those two characters. So please don't yell at him randomly in the street.
If I see him in the street, I am literally going to fangirl and get him to like sign something. I don't know what.
Your butt.
Maybe.
It would be hilarious. You should do it.
He probably would be like, oh, do you reckon he'd do it?
I don't know. But anyway,
He's on the ABC. He's probably not used to signing anything.
I don't think that's right.
ABC comedians, I don't know. They're not that famous, are they?
I think you should just stop talking and we should move on to Taurus Queer.
Oh yeah, here's someone who is actually super famous. Sam, stop looking at me like that. It's another comedy show, and I promise you it will be more funny than me trying to do stand-up comedy. Jay Wymera is going to be performing, and it's on the 15th of July, so the last day of Kayaf.
I actually think that it's pronounced Wimmera, but I could be wrong.
Well, I'm just going to have to call him and check.
Yep, so we will give you more details on our social media pages, but we'll also be talking about this next week. So get on it. Check it out. You're on 101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
Empty Closet Radio. Follow us on Twitter.
101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam. We have run out of time. So if you'd like to listen to us again or listen to any of our previous shows, make sure that you check out our podcast. Just search for Empty Closet Radio in your favorite podcasting app, of which you can now get a native one on your Android phone. So make sure you do that. And then it will give you a little update every week when there's a new episode, and you can listen to it at your leisure. You can go back and listen to any of our over 180 episodes now.
You can also check us out on social media if you don't immediately want to listen to our entire back catalogue.
Why would you not want to immediately do that?
Well, maybe you know, it's bedtime and you just want to read something really quick and not listen to 200 hours of podcasting.
Yeah, it would take you like a week or two to get through it.
So if that's the case, you can check us out on social media. Just look on the big blue book of faces for Empty Closet Radio, hit the like button, or you can find us on the blue Twitty bird. We're at emptycloset_AU, all lowercase.
101.9 Coast FM. You're in the Empty Closet with Andrew and Sam.
Hey, what happened to you? I know you wonder too.
Thanks for listening to The Empty Closet, brought to you by 1019 Coast FM Cairns.